Hello and welcome to the big picture. The new Railway Minister Suresh Prabhu presented his and also the NDA government's first full-fledged railway budget today. Prabhu, from whom much is expected to turn around the railways, now reeling under losses and many other problems, has set out his vision to do exactly that. His ambitious projections, including an investment of rupees 8.5 lakh crores in the next 5 years, has received mixed responses. However, Prabhu's speech was singularly different from the past presentations of the railway budget in one significant way. There was none of the long announcements of new trains and plans for new trains, which used to be the hallmark of previous railway ministers' budget speeches. There is also no passenger fare increase and only a few freight hikes. The focus is on completing the early announced projects. We will look today at what this new railway budget means and whether Suresh Prabhu is headed in the right direction and what kind of changes can we expect in the railway system following this budget. To discuss this, I have with me R.N. Malhotra, former chairman Railway Board, who will be on the phone line with us. R.C. Acharya, former member of the Railway Board. Shiv Gopal Mishra, Secretary General All India Railwaymen Federation, will be joining us soon. And Subhomoy Bhattacharya, Deputy Editor, Indian Express. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Malhotra, do you see this budget as a major departure from what we have seen in the past? One thing, as I said, was that there are no announcement of any new trains. Former ministers used to spend at least half an hour, 15 minutes to half an hour announcing those new trains. This time, we don't have that. So, is that one of the major things? And what do you think overall?
You see, the new trains or increase in fares is otherwise not required to be announced in a budget. Okay. It was being done as a matter of practice. But this does not mean that no new trains will be introduced during the year. In fact, only a couple of months back, some new trains were introduced.
Right.
And they will continue to be introduced according to the requirement, although they have not been announced in the budget. Same is the case with the probably increase in the fares, passenger fares.
Right.
They have not been announced here, but it does not mean that it may not occur during the whole year.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But Mr. Malhotra,
yeah.
the railway ministers stand that we will try to complete the ongoing projects instead of announcing new projects. This is something which most railway ministers avoided doing because there used to be huge pressures on them from the members to announce new trains in their constituencies or states. So you think that the railway minister has been able to resist those pressures?
That is the most welcome step, I would say, not announcing new projects. That is the most welcome step which has been taken because there are such a large number of projects which were pending for want of funds, and they were dragging along for decades too.
How? Okay, Mr. Malhotra, I'll come back to you. Please hold on, Mr. Acharya. I would like to concentrate on this aspect of the railway minister's budget speech, which doesn't announce new trains, but completing the existing projects. How many such projects are there, and what kind of money is required to complete those projects?
Yeah, first of all, I'm extremely delighted that the minister has not announced any new train, nor has he announced any new projects. Last time I remember, there were more than 674 projects which required a humongous amount of money, and providing 8.5 lakh crores for the next 5 years is a most welcome step. I don't know where he's going to find the money.
We'll come to that, sir.
He has already found some money for this year's budget, and I'm delighted that he has not announced any trains. No, I'm sorry that he shied away from increasing the passenger fares. That's also very important, very necessary step, without which the freight traffic will keep on subsidizing the passenger traffic, and which is not healthy. It's financially not healthy and should be done as early as possible.
Okay, as Mr. Malhotra says, that it doesn't mean that the passenger fares may not be hiked throughout the year. It's quite possible that it may be hiked at some point of time. Please stay on, Mr. Acharya. I'll come back to you. Subhomoy, how do you look at this budget? Do you see any major departure from the past?
Yeah, the major departure I think is that there's a business plan. I mean, the railway is a corporate entity. It is a commercial undertaking which requires a budget for every year as part of a corporate plan. The problem,
so you see that corporate plan being put in place?
Absolutely. I mean, every year we could see a budget being presented. The numbers would be there. Some delightful statistics about about train lines, which would please MPs no end. But in terms of a corporate
and allocations
plan,
being 1 lakh and 2 lakhs and
absolutely.
10 lakhs.
But there was no idea, excepting for very long ago. There was one budget which I really had liked. This was Mr. Nitish Kumar's budget, which had actually moved to some extent to start for a plan for the railways. I mean, he had actually tried to create a business plan to a fairly interesting degree. But other than that, before that, for quite a long time, and subsequent to that, there was no business plan.
They were all populist and,
yeah,
essentially
it is a statement of that I have this much of money, I have this much of money I'll spend, and this is what I feel like doing.
Right.
And so in short, there's absolutely no way that you could do it about. The critical part of Mr. Prabhu's challenge would be, as you have pointed out, Mr. Malhotra pointed out, Mr. Acharya pointed out, is about that 8,50,000.
Right.
Divided into 5 years, it comes to 1,74,000 crore. This year itself, Mr. Prabhu has planned budget of 1,11,000 crore,
right,
which means that there is immediately a shortage of something like 70,000 odd crore. So he's immediately run into a financial shortage. And so the challenge for him would be to ensure where he can make the investors feel interested enough to fill that gap, because that is where his challenge would lie. Absolutely.
His challenge is there, and we will go into it. We'll get it from the other panelists on. Mr. Mishra. Mr. Mishra, as a railwayman, do you see any departure from the past in this budget? Do you see anything positive for the railwaymen as far as this budget is concerned?
Yes, quite well. One thing at least has come in this budget, that the railway colonies and the staff quarters, about whom Minister has said that the barracks and the staff quarters will be taken care of. That is a positive point which has been announced in this budget. But railwaymen were expecting some more. But at the same time, I will agree that for the keeping the railway in good health, at least some rationalization in the fare was required. And secondly, I feel that what the gap has been left for fulfilling the dreams of the Prabhu, I think that is the extreme important issue, that from where this money will come.
Absolutely.
I feel that in the last budgets, maybe of the Nitish Kumar ji, maybe Mamta ji, maybe of any, always it has been said that the money will come from the PPP, money will come from the other resources. But unfortunately, railway have always survived on its internal resources or with the budgetary support that has been all together. So I believe that, I hope that some railway will think something out of the box, and we will try to create resources from within the railways. So far railwaymen is concerned, I believe that the railwaymen is putting their hard work. The 13 lakh railwaymen, they are working round the clock in all the weathers. They are dedicating their lives. The committee has said that 1,600 railwaymen is dedicating their life for laying their lives for running this system. So I think something more is required for the railwaymen and their families.
Okay. Mr. Malhotra, coming to the main issue of raising resources. This fantastic plan of 8.5 lakh crores in the next 5 years, as Subhomoy rightly pointed out, right in the first year, there is a shortage of 70,000 crores. Now, what are the avenues from which you think the minister will be able to generate these kind of resources? He's talking of PPP, he's talking of FDI, he's talking of EBR, where you think, as Mr. Mishra was pointing out, these kind of things have been spoken earlier, but we have not really seen that kind of resources coming into the railways.
You see, that is true to some extent. That is, for example, FDI, as I mentioned, FDI has been tried by railways for last 10 years,
right,
for their locomotive and coach factories in Bihar and some of the factories in West Bengal. but they have not yet been successful. That was, you can say, PPP as well as funds to come from outside, but it has not happened. The railway has not been successful in setting up those factories with the help of those outsiders. So that is a little doubtful thing, from where you get the FDI. Now, similarly, this EBR, that is going with the PSUs. I do not know whether PSUs have that much of money, will spare that money for the railways outside their own requirements of expansion and development. And then they will help railways in setting up certain infrastructural assets. So that these are the two things which, in my view, will have to be seen as to what results actually come. As I mentioned, that it is a plan, it is an idea, or it is a vision which has been given by the minister, and actual implementation, how it happens, and how much financial and human resources they are able to collect, that will show as to how many of these things can actually happen.
Okay. Mr. Acharya? Mr. Acharya, there had always been criticism, and there already criticism after this budget was presented today about increasing privatization of railways. You think that is the only option left before the minister now, or how much internal resources can be generated?
You see, the most important thing in this budget was one of the thrust areas was, which I was very happy to see, was increasing augmenting the track capacity. Now, that is one area which is a very critical thing, not only to improve the punctuality of trains, increasing speed of goods trains, providing more facilities for increased loading, but finding the funds for this, he has suggested two modes, PPP and FDI. I'll talk about these two modes. Public-private participation, remember, is the private party is most interested in finding out how much he can make out of this partnership. The three areas in which PPP has been successful in railways has been port connectivity, where like Bhuj, Pipavav, both these places, the private party built the track, set up the whole thing, and the railways gave it some reduction in tariff. So he was happy, the railways are happy. It is a 50-50 win-win situation. Similarly, in Dhamra port also, the Tatas set up the whole structure, and rebate was given for tariff. So where the private party has stake in it, and there are clear-cut responsibilities demarcated, and there is no confusion like happens in NHAI, National Highway Authority, where a lot of projects are stuck in litigation. Railways will succeed only where the areas of conflict have been avoided, and there is clear demarcation of who is to do what and who is to pay for what. As far as FDI is concerned, a lot of foreign companies will be interested, no doubt. But remember, if he invests 1 rupee, he wants to take away 10 rupees. So how much will be the cost of the rolling stock, locomotives, whether it will meet the pockets of the railways or not? Because remember, we have got our own manufacturing facilities. We manufacture 6,000 horsepower electric locomotives, 4,000 horsepower diesel locomotives, coaches. So if my locomotive costs 10 crores, if his locomotive is going to be 20 crores, will I buy it?
Why should
will
you buy
it be in my financial interest or my business? Why should I buy it?
Absolutely.
And he wants to make sure that he not only buys it, he maintains it and makes a lot of money on it. He's not coming here for fun. He's not coming out of interest to help the Indian Railways.
Yes, sir.
So these two areas are very dicey areas, but yes, PPP will certainly succeed if the private party is interested, well-meaning, and the clear-cut demarcation responsibility.
Okay, Subhomoy, FDI and PPP. As both of them, as both former Railway Board chairman and member was pointing out, it has not been too successful in the past, except in few areas, as Mr. Acharya was pointing out, ports. What are the other areas where Suresh Prabhu will be able to, get the private investors to invest or get FDI?
The reason why they didn't succeed was because the railways wasn't particularly keen on letting it succeed. There aren't too many. in NHAI, you could have a problem. There was the issues of land acquisition. There were a lot of other issues that could have bogged those projects. What was the problem? And why didn't Madhepura, why didn't other projects where foreign investment was supposed to come in, why weren't they sort of guided in by the railway board? I think the railway wasn't particularly keen on having those projects. Now, if the minister says that I want to have them, and he's also offering equity participation in several of them, and he's making a clear business case that, look, I want to move from point A to point B, I think they surely would succeed. It's a question of who wants it and who doesn't want it. Earlier on, I mean, most of the projects, like forget about PPP, railways, the good siding, which was supposed to be sidings for the private domestic players, many of those didn't take off. Now, they were very simple projects to take on. But railways, frankly, wasn't very particularly keen.
Railways not being particularly keen is also a political issue because privatization is something which
no, it's not a privatization. You're simply asking that I can take the goods from point A to point B. No one is asking railways to privatize.
That's right.
But if the railway says after taking it from point A to point B, then from there you take it to the point of your production point center, then there shouldn't have been a problem. Yet railways wasn't able to organize its act together to be able to ensure that the last mile connectivity came through.
Then let us get Mr. Malhotra. How do you react to this?
No, you see, as has been mentioned about Madhepura,
yes,
or these locomotive and coach factories, that they have not been successful because of this reason, what Mr. Acharya has said, and that is that the person or the company, foreign company which wants to set up that factory, they want an assured order at a certain rate, which the government, as a government department, Indian Railways, is not able to give that commitment because they have their own manufacturing units.
Right.
In a particular year, they may not have demand. So they say in a particular year when we don't have a demand, why should we buy from you at a higher rate?
Absolutely.
And they say that what will we do with the factory if we set it up during that year?
So, Mr. Malhotra, how is the new this railway minister going to overcome this problem? Does he have any other choice? The same kind of problem which you're explaining may crop up again?
That is what I said. We will have to see how the implementation is done. Only then we will be able to know how good the promises are.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Acharya, sorry, let me go to Mr. Mishra. Mr. Mishra, there is, as far as the railwaymen are concerned, there is a political aspect to this whole thing. For years, we have seen the workers, railway workers, and even the unions outside the railways who are supporting you. They're all, even today, we have seen reports coming and statements being made about increasing privatization of the railways. You think that what the railway minister today has set out to do is something which the railwaymen, as far as the railwaymen are concerned, is something welcome, and you would welcome this much of privatization which has been envisaged?
No, sir, Girish, I will like to tell you very frankly that we are totally against all sort of privatization, and for that, I would like to tell you that who are our stakeholders. Our stakeholders are 2.36 crore people, those to whom we are carrying every day on our trains, which is the population of Australia and New Zealand. And out of those, only 20 lakh are the people, those who travel in the higher class, and rest all 20 lakh, more than 2 crore, they travel in the sleeper and the general class coaches. Unfortunate is that all our schemes, all our plans are made for these 20 lakh people, those who are the affluent class of society. And always it is said, for catering, pizza will be to them. For everything, this will be them, and same things are going in this budget also. What a person needs and expects from the railway, I feel that he wants that if I purchase a ticket, I should get a seat in the railway. For that, capacity augmentation is must. But if you say that only the foreign investors or the national investors, they can bring this cheers to those people, that will not be possible. For that, Government of India has to invest their money from the general budget, and there is no other alternative, I am telling you. For talking about this investing in the high-speed rails and these bullet trains, if they want, they should bring. But there should not be any load on the railway or the Government of India.
Okay.
Just now, there was a talk of the Madhepura and Maurara. We oppose this also. Because if you have your own factories, as Acharya ji has said, that you have your own factories in the diesel locomotive works Varanasi, you have your own factories in the Chitranjan locomotive works for the locos. Why Madhepura? Why Maurara? Because why you will give a short uptake? What will happen if the production
Absolutely.
of our own in-house factories
Yes, I think Mr.
is
Malhotra
there?
made...
Then why you are going to give this
Okay.
assured optic?
Mr. Mishra ji, I think Mr. Malhotra made that point very clear, very well. Yes, Subhomoy?
Yeah, what I was saying was that what I find, what Mr. Mishra is saying is right, that there should be adequate capacity. If that is the case, that there should be adequate capacity, then what Mr. Malhotra is saying, that we don't have demand, we can't produce demand.
No, he didn't say we don't have demand, but
demand
when there is no demand,
but
how can Government of India give kind of assurances to a foreign investor?
There's no need to give assurance,
Yes.
but if, as Mr. Mishra is rightly pointing out, that there is always a pent-up demand for additional railway or to carry additional passengers. For that, you need coaches, you need locomotives. And yet, on the other side, the Railway Board is saying that we can't possibly not guarantee, but even assure or whatever, or we don't think that there will be years when we can provide that sort of a demand.
Right.
I think the two don't sit well together. Either you have a demand or you don't have a demand. And now, just look at the budget figures. This year's diesel locomotive production, it was 350. It's just expected to go up just by 25 locomotives, 375. Is that the capacity which we will be able to satisfy the demand of the railway network? It's ridiculous.
We don't know. Mr. Acharya, how do you react to what Subhomoy is saying? Second thing is, we are talking about, the ministry is talking about introducing train set savings, 20% of the, journey time, and he's talking of similar to bullet trains in design that can run on existing tracks. He was talking of the congestion on the tracks and how this congestion needs to be removed. And he seems to have some plan. What do you think of that?
Look, as far as congestion on tracks is concerned, as I told you right in the beginning, I am delighted there are no new passengers trains announced. Because don't forget, last 25 years, 3,000 new trains have been announced. 3,000 new trains, and they have increased the number of trains from 9 to 12,000 passenger trains. And coming back to this PPP again, I find that the ports are the best bet, because in the speech also Mr. Prabhu said Mr. Gadkari has agreed to provide nearly 2,000 crores from ports for development of ports connectivity, and every single port will have at least 15 or 20 kilometers track, which is very easy to do.
No,
it's only a question of land acquisition.
Okay, Mr. Acharya,
all these PP projects will definitely succeed.
Mr. Acharya, we are running out of time. I just want a quick word from you. As far as, the transformation is talking of increasing the track capacity by 10% to 1.8 lakh kilometers in 5 years. Is that a doable proposition?
Yes, it is doable, and I'm glad that at last he has shifted away from populism to pragmatism, and at least once now we have got a minister who has got a clear-headed objective and is prepared to walk the extra mile, talk the walk, as they say.
Walk the talk.
And by providing budgeting for the walk the talk, which is very essential. You can dream big, you can think big, but it has to be implemented, and he seems to be determined to do it.
Okay.
And I'm sure he will find ways and means of doing it, whatever comes.
Okay, Mr. Malhotra, quick last words to you. Apart from what we have discussed, what are the other apprehensions you have as far as this budget and the way it could be implemented are concerned?
No, I have no apprehensions, because once the minister or there is a political will, then something will happen, at least if not all. Even if some of these improvements occur, especially as he has mentioned, that use of technology for improving almost every sphere of activity.
Right.
So these things will certainly improve the total output and efficiency of the railway.
Okay. So my very quick last words. One of the things which the railway minister said is making railways self-sustainable. Now, is this a dream which you think we will be seeing it in our own lifetime?
Sure. More than that, I'm also impressed with the idea of the sort of a semi-regulator sort of position which will be taking on. I think that's something that's very well thought of.
Okay. I think on that note, we are running out of time. We have to conclude. But the fact is that we didn't discuss the passenger facilities and amenities and several other things which the railway minister talked about, because most of the things which he has said is something which any passenger, any citizen in this country who uses railways will welcome and will hope that most of the things which the railway minister has spoken will be implemented and will make passengers' journey in the trains much more comfortable. We'll wait and see how all the other plans will be implemented. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue in the big picture same time tomorrow.